Once you commit to a theology that confesses that Jesus is the final revelation of God, sort of a Hebrews 1 theology, in the past there were prophets that said this, but then Jesus came along and was the exact image of the divine. You take the Gospel of John seriously, where Jesus says, I only do what I see the Father doing, I and the Father in one. If you have a theology that confesses that, then you have some really tough decisions about how you're going to read the candles coming out of my head, the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. Because you could say, like this commenter does, God was really grumpy. He was just as angry as, the Greek or Roman gods, but then he cheered up a little bit and sent Jesus to tell us. You could say, actually, there is no contradiction between the non-violent Jesus revealed on the cross and the God of the Hebrew Bible, that they're just, two sides of the same coin, and sometimes God really is angry and wrathful and spit and fire at people, and sometimes he's really kind and nice and is willing to die on our behalf. And you never know which God you're going to get, because maybe in Revelation, the angry God's going to come back and slay everybody with a sword coming out of his mouth and send everybody to the pit of fire. And, it's the same God. Or you could say that there are things about God that we did not know, and that Jesus revealed those things, and the people who composed the Hebrew Bible, they simply got it wrong. Now, I should pause and say that there are Jews and forms of Judaism that do not need Jesus as the Messiah and still come to similar conclusions about the character of God, where they do not confuse the writings of the Hebrew Bible with a perfect revelation of the divine character. It's still possible to do that. Where Christians and Jews have a dividing line is that they say that Jesus is the perfect revelation of God's character, and therefore do come to some different conclusions about the nature of the divine. But you have to make that decision. You either end up with a very contradictory sort of God that can both be wrathful and violent and non-violent on the cross, or a Hebrew Bible and a New Testament that are in direct contradiction with each other. Or you can have a unifying vision of Scripture that unifies itself around the character of Jesus, showing God to be merciful, loving, kind, not wrathful, and non-violent, and then use that as your hermeneutical interpretive lens for the Hebrew Scriptures.